start now.
So, I mean, like, what did you feel about the last time when I just hit record and we just like went for it? You know, did you miss having an intro?
I did actually.
Yeah, you did. It's like you need that to kind of like, you know, start the ritual of the podcast.
Yeah, maybe.
Yeah, okay.
Maybe.
All right, so let's hold our hands to the sky. You know, get ready to start the podcast. All right, join me. There we go.
Here we go. Deep breathing.
Hello and welcome to the Tree of Life podcast. Today we're honoring spring because it's beautiful outside. It's dark there, but is it beautiful in England? Is it still raining?
Do you know what? We've had the best weather. It's been so sunny. It's been so gorgeous. It's been remarkably sunny for March. I feel like we've been granted spring almost a month earlier than we normally do. So I'm so happy about that.
Yeah, that's Glastonbury. Like, I feel like I've gotten very lucky every time I go. Even that time I stayed a month, like the weather was actually pretty fair the whole time. It was like last April.
It was good actually.
We had a few rainy days, but like there's a lot of sun days.
Yeah, not bad for England.
And honestly, Somerset in the sun, Glastonbury in the sun. Honestly, it's remarkable. It's an amazing place.
Yeah. It looks like a different world at the moment. We had a really long, dark winter. It was very grey and overcast. So it's nice. It's nice to get some sunshine back, get the serotonin levels back up.
Yeah. I went. We wanted to hit record because I just got back from Sedona, and the thing that was really funny. Did I send you the pictures where it was like snowy there?
No, it looked really.
Yeah. Yeah, so I get there. I left, Ohio, where I'm at, was just kind of like one of the northern places to live here, and so we get a decent amount of snow. And I left here, and I landed in Sedona, and the first full day I was there was a blizzard, and I mean it snowed all day. I didn't like, and Sedona's known for these big, beautiful red rock mountains, and I couldn't see them because the snow was so thick. I couldn't see anything. I mean, we got like that much snow, like, in inches. I think it was in total like 14 inches of snow in one day.
Crazy. Did you pack for it? Were you just there like
I packed for sun. I had a raincoat. That was it. Yeah, but luckily, like, it was beautiful. Like, it does snow there sometimes, but the next day we woke up and I mean the snow and the red rocks and the desert. I mean, it was absolutely gorgeous, but I was expecting a little bit more sun out of my trip to the desert.
So funny. Always the unexpected with you, isn't it?
Yeah.
It's like another initiation.
Not to toot my own horn or toot my own flute, as I will more than likely be playing because it's right here that I got in Sedona. I don't know.
Go on. That's how we do the introduction. We should have you playing flute now.
Oh yeah. I want to get like the the Lord of the Rings theme from like the Shire. I want to get that down on it.
Oh,
that'll be the perfection.
That's the one. Absolutely, yeah.
Well, anyways, it's spring. How are you feeling about spring, Kubi?
I'm feeling so good, and I feel very seasonal at the moment. Like, I had a very deep dive into the winter, and everything seems to be springing to life at the moment. It's got lots of fun projects launching, and life is very exciting. Things feel very positive and sunny, and I feel good. I did a big spring clean of the house last week, and that felt actually really good. It's one of those old rituals, isn't it? It's one of those things that kind of everybody does, and they probably don't realize the spiritual, energetic significance of it, that it probably is quite pagan to be energetically clearing your house this time of year. But I loved it. I had a great time.
Well, it's interesting because we talk about all the time on this podcast or in person or with other people is just the things that we still do now in this modern world that are, still ultimately pagan in origin. And the spring clean, it's something we kind of half jokingly talk about, like, oh, it's time for the spring clean, but like, it's so important.
Yeah, 100%. Really, to almost invoke that shift from like the kind of the dark cave of winter, you're kind of inviting that light and that energy and freshness into your house. And yeah, it does feel really important. Have you been spring cleaning?
Well, yeah, it's interesting. So last week I was in Sedona, and the week before then, I was sick. I actually got the flu. And so it was like the last holdout of winter. I was on my couch the first day of it. I mean, that's why, I mean, I knew it was the flu. I had no energy. I could not leave.
Oh, that's
And
rough.
so for
Yeah.
like 3 days, I finally was slowly getting my energy back. But of course, those 3 days, I was barely, I was cooking bare minimum. I wasn't doing dishes. I was snot covered. And so after I finally got better, the whole house was just filth. It
Oh,
felt disease ridden. And so I had to do like my spring clean early. Just because I was like, this place is like a plague ward. ward.
yeah. That's good. Life kind of forced you into that one, hey?
Yeah, yeah. And so yeah, but like also like sickness is very common in the winter, sniffles and everything like that. So I think there is a practical element to cleaning our homes after winter as well, is to get away all like that heaviness that comes with winter, both in the literal part of our world and the spiritual.
Definitely. Really felt that this year. Yeah, really felt that. It's great. I love it. I love it, love it, love it. Feels good.
No.
De-hoard, keep things fresh, kind of get rid of all the old, make way for the new. And there's that whole feeling of like rebirthing at the moment, isn't there, with spring? I
Mhm.
mean, we're coming up to the spring equinox on the 21st, so that's
I think this episode's going to come out on the 21st. If 21st is Friday.
so happy spring equinox, everybody.
Happy spring equinox.
Woo! Yeah, so that's yeah, feeling good about that. And I always think when it gets to that time of year, it's when the clocks go back as well, around that sort of time.
Yeah.
And life just feels different. But the question that always seems to be on everyone's mind with the spring equinox rituals is, what are you birthing into the world? What are you putting life into? What are you kind of charging ahead with?
Yeah.
What are you finally actualizing this year? And it goes from being the dream or the on the drawing board to something that's actually, underway, I suppose.
Yeah, and I think that's kind of like, talking to the audience here, the people listening, who we probably need to acknowledge more often instead of just talking together. There's, a lot of amazing people that watch the show and love listening to us. And, I'm very grateful for them. And I definitely want to challenge them to think about throughout this episode what their goals for spring are. In particular, I think like you just said, like, what are you birthing into this world? What are you birthing into the new year? And as we've been talking and preaching basically for the whole year of this podcast existing, is go with the seasons. And so spring, now's the time. Now's the time to start planting those seeds. And now's the time to start new things. And so,
Yeah,
yeah, I really want to encourage the audience out there. Like, what are you trying to birth into this world?
so cool, isn't it? How does that land with you? What are you birthing into the world for spring, Jacob? What's your thing?
I actually wrote it all down, kind of like my spring plans and things like that. And for me, it's returning simplicity. I think the other thing that the start of a new year or the start of a new cycle brings us is returning to the bare minimum, the ground zero. And so I feel like the last phase of winter, a lot of my time as Sedona or when I was sick even, was analyzing everything that's in my life, all the elements, and seeing what serves me and seeing what doesn't, and kind of
Yeah.
starting to prune things in my life to see what needs to grow into this next year, both planting of new seeds, but also the plants that I've already taken. And that's one
Mm.
of the reasons I think I was really called to take this break from making content on YouTube. I feel really bad. Like I wanted to, and there was a lot of guilt, being a content creator for 6 years and not
Oh,
producing content. Like I felt a really, and I think that was the downward spiral, is that first time I hit that wall. It's like, well, I have to make something, because if I don't, like, I'm letting, the audience down, this is my job.
yeah.
But I just couldn't, and I really had to accept that, like, no, I can't feel this guilt. I need to be able to take a step away. And I kind of told myself, like, for the rest of winter, you're going to sit with this and analyze what means the most to you. And so for me, the spring is really returning to my simplicity of my content, of why I make videos in the first place. And we were kind of talking before the show, like, I started this channel as a guy going on hikes in the woods talking about Norse paganism. And that's kind of what I want to start returning to, is that guy that takes you on a hike with me. I, show you some beautiful nature, and we're going to talk about ancient religions. And so, and when I reflect on that, I'm happy, and I'm happy to share that content with people. I don't want to become that guy that produces content just because he feels like he has to.
Yeah.
I want to make it for the people out there.
I mean, I feel like that's almost like you spring cleaning your approach to work as
Mm,
well. You know what I mean? That's like a that's part of devoting yourself to working, is making sure it's authentic and fresh and, renewed. So I really respect that you've done that. I think that's a really good move.
It's actually really funny. This is, I think kind of just a selfish self-reflection. So this hard drive right here contains like all of the footage from my travels for the last 2 years. And this thing, it's really heavy. And I have to like plug this in with a little dongle and everything in order to like get all this footage. But in a way, even though these travels mean everything to me and they changed who I was as a person, like I actually was starting to feel the weight of the travels literally with the footage of, how do I, take all this footage? Like I have thousands of clips of footage from around the world. Like, and it almost became overbearing to think about of how to use these appropriately. And so that's kind of why I'm like, no, like it started with nature. It needs to go back to nature.
I love that. It's like back to what matters, isn't it? And it's that whole thing of like visiting things, doing a full circle and kind of seeing, yeah, chucking out what doesn't work, chucking out what does, and keeping what does, So I think it's great. It
Yeah, I
seems
love
like
it.
a really good direction.
Yeah, I'm pumped. What about you? What are you birthing into spring?
Ooh, well, I've got a very excited project. So I was trying to create something over a couple of years that kind of culminates all of my passions together around Celtic folklore and everything I've learned about Druidry and the Ogham, all the things that light my soul up. And I tried this as a 4-day retreat in Glastonbury, and it went really well. But my feeling was like, I want to give more to this. I want to breathe more life into this than just a 4-day retreat. So I've launched it as a 2-year path of training, and it's going to be called the Path of the Oak. So it
Hmm.
explores the Ogham, the folklore, the Druidry, the connection to the land, the rituals, and it's something that can be done in person here on the lands of Avalon. So it's like 4 days training and 20 months working with the Ogham, or it can be done online so that it's like a global reach. So anyone who's actually listening to this, like in America and stuff, if you wanted to do this 2-year training with me, the Path of the Oak is something. Yeah, it's just I've literally just birthed it. It's
Hmm.
it's all ready to go now on my website. So that's super exciting. And it just feels good. It feels like something that's been waiting to be birthed for a couple of years. I've been waiting for the right kind of jigsaw pieces to come together for it,
Yeah.
and now it's out. It feels so good. It feels like such a good energy behind it. So yeah,
Yeah.
I'm
And I imagine people can like sign up for that at any point. Like you don't have to hop in at a certain window, right? They can kind of just start whenever.
yeah, exactly. It's quite cyclical, so you can jump in whenever, and yeah, super, super excited. So I'm taking students on now. If anyone fancies that, if anyone feels the call to kind of learn more about Druidry and Celtic folklore and the Ogham and herbs, then yeah. Oh, maybe we'll put the link in it at the end. That's like
Yeah.
my,
Yeah. Just send me the
my
updated link to everything. Yeah.
yeah, yeah, I'll put a link to it below. That'd be great. And yeah, so and yeah, that is it. I'm really excited about that. And yeah, lots of good things in life that seem to be springing into life, and all the doors seem to be opening for me at the moment. So yeah, feeling good, feeling
Nice.
some
Yeah.
spring.
Yeah, and that's all I can hope for anyone is to really take this new birth of the sun, and take that energy with you. Get outside, let the sun touch your skin, and smell some flowers. Be the hippies, go barefoot. Like for some reason today, like I woke up, I was at my parents' house last night, and I woke up, and my dad wanted to go get like something, and he's like, "Come on, son, let's take a ride." And I was just like, you know what? I'm not gonna wear shoes today. And he kind of looked at me as I was walking outside barefoot, and I was basically wearing this. I have like my shorts on, and he's like, "What are you doing? Where are your shoes?" I'm like, "It's a beautiful day. Why would I wear shoes?"
Yeah, the real question is, why are your shoes still on, Dad?
Right? Yeah. Oh, it was so funny. Like he was telling me, like he was going through like his Google Health or whatever, and he's like, "Oh wow, I've walked 5 miles this month." And I started
Mm.
thinking, I'm like, "This month?" And I looked, I'm like, "Dad, I walked 5 miles yesterday."
Oh, bless.
Yeah, and that's where my dad's a great person. He's really smart. Like, I mean, he's mathematically smart like me. I mean, I don't understand math at all, but um, you know, just like, how can you only walk 5 miles a month? To me, it's just like I walk all the time. I'm always out. I see the sun. I get like energized. Like I'm ready to go.
feel like I do 5 miles up and down the stairs every day, let alone the outside. You know what I
Yeah,
mean?
as a point of pride, you know.
Maybe you should feature him in your new videos, like dragging him to the woods.
Yeah, I tell you. Um, and I always think about reflecting on my content for so long. Like one of the things I tell people all the time is to go outside, and sometimes I think I don't listen to my own advice. If I ever
Yeah.
get too much in my head or too depressed, I often have to reflect. Well, when's the last time you took a walk in nature and
Yeah.
actually absorbed it?
Yeah, exactly. Nature really does hold a lot of answers, and it's such a simple answer to a lot of problems. But whenever we get too down in the dumps, it's literally like, okay, first question, when was the last time you connected with nature? When's the last time, you were silent and listened to the leaves and like tried to make sense of the bird call? And I mean, that's something I've really noticed at the moment. I guess, from exploring land omens much deeper this year, but hearing the bird calls change from winter to
Mm,
spring, I've really heard the difference this year. I was like, wow, it's just magic, eh? Like just the
yeah.
little that brings so much joy to us all. Yeah.
You want to hear about a wild bird that I saw? You might not even know exist. You might think this
Well,
is just a cartoon, but a
is this
roadrunner.
no?
They exist. They're
We're
real.
talking about a cartoon there, Jacob.
Yeah, I know. There's the roadrunner and like the coyote, right? But a roadrunner is a real bird.
Oh, yeah.
Yeah, I saw one. They're like little dinosaurs.
What? Hang on.
Yeah, like,
Were you tripping when you went to the desert? What did you
well,
take?
I was in fact tripping when I was in the desert, actually. But let me see if I saw this before then. I swear. Um,
What?
yeah, no, there's a real bird. And they seriously, this thing looks like a little raptor.
Wow.
See, I'll hold it up here.
Oh, that's mad.
Yeah, like the one I saw had really long legs, and yeah, they have the little floop on the front. They are not purple, and they don't chase coyotes. But
Oh, no, that's that bubble burst.
yeah, but they're kind of small. But I saw it like dart across the road. I'm like, what's that? And yeah, the mushrooms didn't come till the next day, but I saw this
Yeah,
thing.
you definitely saw it.
Well, I will tell you. So like we're midway through, so we can talk about anything now. YouTube doesn't watch this part, but let me tell you. Sedona, my overall review, great place to go get high. Like great place to do mushrooms.
Right, because I imagine that landscape must have felt really vast and expansive under the influence of our magical friend.
Yeah. The thing I experienced, so we did it in this place like the Cow Pies is what it's called. And so you have like the Red Rock Mountains over here, and then you have more of like the Alpine Mountains right here. So you're in the middle of these two different regions. And so
Yeah.
and I had like the snow on this mountain and pine trees, and then I had cactuses over here and Red Rock. And so you could kind of like shift your perspective and turn around. And so I had my little poncho on and I had like my little window to the world. Um, and that land really comes alive. And I think that's interesting because a lot of people can look at psychedelics. I'm very cautious of their use. I think people overuse them.
Yeah.
But that land, you see the energy of it, you see the spirit of it when you do a psychedelic. And those
Mm.
mountains, all the mountains turn into faces. All the ground comes alive, and it almost looked like petroglyphs everywhere. And it's like you can really see, how the ancestors kind of saw this place, how the ancients saw it. It was really special. And a lot of the lessons for me, kind of going into spring were about the simplicity, about how life is a gift. We've been given this amazing gift of life from the creator, from the spirits. And we're given this amazing ability to experience a world like nothing else on this planet. And to
Yeah.
me, that all comes together with spring is we have this amazing ability to experience this life every year, every cycle. And so let's
Yeah.
let's use that.
I love that. It's almost like we get an opportunity to renew our contract with life, isn't it? Like if you think about it like that, we go through this death rebirth and we get to like live again and be born again almost. It's so, yeah. Ah, life. What a trip. I always
It's
feel
life
full
is
of it
wild.
this time of year. I've had too much spring. That's what's happened here.
Already, it's actually not even spring. It's 3 days before spring, Kubi.
It's got to my head. It's got to me.
Yeah.
Oh my
um,
God. Are you
yeah, I
doing
mean,
anything on the actual spring equinox?
what am I
So,
doing? Weirdly enough, I'm going to a wedding. So that's an interesting like way to celebrate spring. I feel like, love, new life, alcohol.
I wonder if you'll be able to resist bursting into like a shamanic ritual halfway through their ceremony. Just like, surprise, I got spring rituals for you folks.
It is really funny. Like, I don't like to share too many of the real life, like normal people interactions I have, but I had one today. Like, so I'm working at this bar right now. And like the bar manager came up. He's like, I have to go pick up my daughter. She gets off the bus at 4, and the other manager's not going to get here till like 4:30. What do I do? And I looked at him like, this place doesn't exist. Like, you have your daughter. She needs to go picked up. She's way more important than this place. I'm like, what's going to happen? This place is just 4 walls. Like look around. Is this place real? Is this real life? And he was like, he actually started looking around. He was like, yeah, I guess you're kind of right. I was like, your daughter is so much more important. Like, go, be free.
Oh, it's like a movie.
And this is how I am with everyday people these days. And so I have no idea how I'm going to be at this normal person wedding. So I don't know. We'll find out.
Oh, please wear your poncho. Just do something.
Uh,
Oh,
let me
that's
tell
so
you, ponchos on the mushrooms, amazing, amazing.
the
Oh yeah,
vision.
it gives you just a portal, you know.
Oh gosh. I'm going to be out of Glastonbury for the equinox. Me and my
You're allowed to
partner,
leave.
apparently I'm not going to vanish into glitter if
Yeah.
I leave the parameters, which I haven't tried and tested for a while, but so we're off to Tintagel, which is going to be great.
What did you
It's
just tell me? What word is that?
So it's called Tintagel. It's a place in Cornwall. It's like one of the kind of heartlands of where all the Arthurian folklore is kind of thriving there. It's got lots of magical little fairy glens, and there's Merlin's Cave, which I'm very excited about going to. So yeah, me and my beloved we're going to go and do some rituals on the land, and just it's going to be great. I think it's going to be really fun there. So that's
Nice.
exciting.
Yeah. That's so
Yeah,
funny. Yeah, I'm just really surprised Glastonbury lets you leave.
I know. It's part
What?
of my contract. I'm allowed to go once a year.
Isn't your destiny to become like one of the apple trees, like in the orchard? Like you're gonna like go there at sunset on the winter solstice and just become an apple tree or something.
Yeah, yeah, my last dying day on planet Earth. No, I'd love that. I'm actually all up for that. I'd become an apple tree. But yeah, there's lots of other, I suppose there'll be lots of rituals and things happening in Glastonbury, the normal kind of ceremonies in Chalice Well and the White Spring.
Yeah,
Uh,
so it's interesting now that we've kind of completed a full cycle ourselves, which we haven't really acknowledged, but like this is our 1 year anniversary episode of doing this podcast.
oh my goodness.
Yeah, we've made it 1 year.
Oh, that's wonderful. Happy anniversary podcast.
Yeah, yeah. Happy anniversary! Oh, it's flute
You can
time.
do just a tune for that, yeah. Perfect.
It's interesting, the people I recommend this podcast to. I'm just like, honestly, I feel like I just wanted to, it's a charming podcast. We talk about life and the cycles and what you should
Yeah.
do with them. And I feel
Yeah.
like yes.
It's so nice, isn't it? I tell you what, one year I really want to I want to do the Ireland tour at some point as well. I think that's going to be amazing because there's where is it? A burial chamber, Neolithic one, Kenty and Longcrew. And this was I think it's something like on the 21st, so when the days and nights are in equal balance. Um, it's been built so that with the rising sun on the spring equinox, it illuminates carvings of what looks like eight-spoked sun wheels and ancient swirling artworks inside,
Hmm.
which is really cool because that's like, Neolithic ancestors, way
Yeah.
before all of the Celts. So they were really celebrating spring equinox. And I thought next year it would be amazing to go to County Meath and really experience that, these old Neolithic kind of chambers as well as the kind of local celebrations.
It's illuminated on the equinox?
Yeah.
Interesting. Yeah, because the equinoxes I feel like are often kind of like forgotten about.
Yeah.
There's not far more ancient sites connect to the solstices than they do the equinoxes.
Yeah, isn't that interesting?
Yeah.
So this is quite an important one, I suppose, in that sense.
Yeah.
It sort of brings in the spring equinox as well,
No, I
because it's
always
quite.
wondered, is that because like it's harder to determine the equinox because it's the midway point?
Oh, that's a good observation. Yeah,
Because
possibly, possibly.
yeah, because like I don't know, yeah, I feel like it's a little bit more subtle. And just as we kind of talked about, obviously in this podcast, is like the Celts much more aligned to Beltane and Samhain than the midsummer or Yule points as well.
Yeah. Yeah. It's so true. It tends to almost be like winter, summer, isn't it? Celebrations, especially more in the kind of Norse traditions.
Yeah, because we have like Ostara, but Ostara is very much like a modern kind of recreation of spring holidays. I know like Jackson Crawford, I didn't watch the video, but he made a video talking about, I think, like Suna and Ostara. Maybe not, but it's very loose goddess, like where like Jacob Grimm mentioned him or mentioned her one time, was like she was probably a goddess, but there's nothing, like literally nothing else.
Yeah, right. Because she's Germanic, right? A
Yeah,
Germanic
yeah.
god. Yeah, she always gets kind of put in the Celtic wheel, and I'm always like, I'm that person that's like, it's Germanic.
Well,
We don't
southern Germany is kind of Celtic.
It's like fallen in there at some point. Yeah, because we don't really have a spring equinox goddess or god. I mean, I suppose the nearest thing we have in the Celtic pantheon is Cernunnos, which is like the fertility god, the horned god of the land, of the wild.
Yeah. What
So,
there's that Celtic or the Gaulish, we should say. There's the Gaulish calendar of the
mhm.
the seasons. And they like name the seasons or like the months. So I'd be curious what the month of May or March was for them. I can't
Ooh,
remember. You know what I'm talking about, like that calendar. It's like the ancient Celtic calendar,
the
but it's
Celt
like it's
the Celtic.
Gaulish technically. I feel like we need to look this up. Um,
Ooh.
was the Coligny Coligny calendar.
Oh, yeah. Yeah.
It was made in Roman Gaul in the second century. It's a lunar and solar calendar, and they have names for the months. And so for March to April is
This,
Adrenios.
this is the agricultural calendar you're talking about, isn't
Yeah,
it?
yeah, yeah.
Yeah, I'm with you now. Okay.
Yeah. So Adrenios is the name for March to April, which is similar to the Irish word for fire or heat. And then
Okay.
February to March, which could be kind of go with your Carnunas thing, is Alembivios, which is the month of the stag.
Oh my God. I love it when stuff connects.
Yeah.
Oh. Yeah. Okay. So my feelings were correct about that. That's good. That's good to know. So yeah, that's got to be Canunos then, hasn't it?
Yeah, well, he's interesting because I don't know if you watched like my video kind of discussing it, and like one of the things that kind of came to me is, to me, we kind of see him as like the wild, but in my
Yeah.
opinion, because since he's holding both the torque and the snake, I think he actually is the balance between the wild and civilization.
Ooh, that's
Yeah, because I
cool.
think people really over connect to the antlers and the horns, but it's like, but he is always holding the torque and the snake. Or and there's also usually a cornucopia with him as well.
That's really interesting. Yeah. So maybe it's more about that balance. And it also speaks to the balance of light and dark, perhaps as well. This kind of, I don't know, with the time of year. Yeah, that's really interesting because I mean, I suppose it's about harnessing. It's interesting with the snake, actually, because you think about Kundalini energy, which is always represented with a snake.
Oh,
And
he
he
is
represents,
very like kind of Eastern looking as well, especially in the Gundestrup cauldron.
yeah, absolutely. I've thought that before as well. And, it makes you wonder, doesn't it? The crossovers of cultures. And maybe the snake represented fertility in that depiction of Cernunnos as well.
Yeah, and I don't think he ever had like a phallus. I don't think he actually is usually shown with like a penis or anything like that. As far as I know, none of his depictions are.
Is he not? Let me just Google Cernunnos penis.
No, go, don't do that. You do not want. No. Don't put that on your search history.
Done it.
No, it's on your search history now. What has popped up? What has popped up
Oh,
in that search?
nothing historic, I can tell you that much.
Oh, it might be historic.
Never mind. Looks like deviant art to me. Gunderstrop. Yeah, he hasn't got a big erection on the cauldron,
Well,
has
yeah,
he?
because I'm thinking about I have right here.
No,
Um,
he's got his
I've
pants on
always
though.
thought that he looks very similar to like this symbol of Freyr, which most people, again, we assume this is Freyr, like the fertility god of the Norse, mostly because he has a penis. Like, we very
Yeah.
loosely associate, Freyr with fertility. And then there's this. And now I think it's because there's like in the Saxo Grammaticus's, the history of the Danes, or one of the stories, it talks about how they went to a temple, and then there was the Odin figure, the Freyr figure, and the Thor figure. And I think they specifically mentioned that there's a phallus on the Freyr figure. And so since this was found in Sweden, they have assumed that it's Freyr. But this design to me matches very similar to like the Gundestrup cauldron in style.
Totally. How weird is that?
Yeah.
But that again connects it with spring, right? That's the crossover.
Mm-hmm. Yeah. Well, and then he has like a horn, as well. So they obviously like drinking as well.
Yeah. So with the Norse pantheon, is it very much Freya and no, it's Freya, isn't it? Who is it that you would be celebrating? Like, what would your
During
ritual
what?
be? Sort of spring equinox time.
Um,
If you were sort of
Again, like
spring.
they're very similar to the Celtic, because they really only had the two seasons. It
Yeah.
was really just spring, summer and winter. And I mean,
Mm.
again, this is because the very extreme duality of the sun and then there. And so the midway point, I don't think was celebrated as much. And at this time in Scandinavia, it's still kind of dreary. I don't think the equinox was really followed that much. I think they have snow on the ground much longer in most places than we do, obviously in the UK or in the US. I know I think I saw the reference. I can't remember where I pulled it out, but was the charming of the plow. That's a modern heathen celebration in February typically. And it's essentially spring cleaning. It's essentially preparing the fields and the equipment for spring. And there's some kind of ritual to it.
I love that. The charming of the plough. Is that
Yeah.
like a seduction of the farmer's like tractor? How does this work in the modern world? How can it be interpreted?
Yeah,
What does
again, but I think it's a relatively modern celebration. I think there's like one reference to like getting the tools ready.
yeah. Is it like saging them? Is there a process of, I guess it would be seining if it was more kind of.
Yeah, I think it's just like with anything in the ancient past, when we look at like the folk customs and things like that, everything was kind of blended together. And so there's a logistical reason, like a literal reason, that they're preparing the tools. They're making sure the sides are sharp enough. They're making sure that all the tools are ready. Everything's maintained and maintenance. And so you're going to have an element of,
Mm.
real worldness, but then I think they would have had songs. They would have had some kind of ritual for it. And I know that in Denmark, still today, in the countryside, there is a celebration in late winter of people going out and watching the cows run out into the fields for the first time. Because like when the cows run
Oh,
out to the fields, they like kind of celebrate. And so
I've seen
still to this
videos of
day,
it.
yeah, yeah. So people still today watch this. And so clearly people 2000 years ago were doing that too.
Yeah. Oh, it's such a joyous moment when you see those cows being released and they've just got so much joy in their little souls as they rush out. If anyone hasn't seen that, Google it. It's really worth a
That's
watch
how
if you ever
we need
feel
to be.
down.
That's how we should be in
Yeah.
spring.
Yeah, like charging forward into things, rushing forth, manifesting with the universe.
Well, and
Yeah.
then again, there's the practicality of the daylight. And I think that's the real thing we're celebrating here at the equinox. It's something that we're all very aware of, is there's just more daytime. We're recording this episode at 6 p.m. my time, and there's still 2.5 more hours now of daylight, and that's something to celebrate, because a month and a half ago it was pitch black right now, and
Yeah.
it was dark. There was just less opportunity, but I've already worked today. We're doing this podcast, and I might do something else. Like there's more opportunities to get out and do something, creative, or just in general.
It's so much fun, isn't it? Like just that those little extra graces of time each day are so worthwhile because you can just Yeah, it comes with that energy of excitement for me, really, of that promise of summer, which isn't too far away now. Ooh,
You know,
that's exciting.
I don't like summer though. I
Oh,
think summer's way better than England. It doesn't get that hot. Where I'm at,
oh
by
yeah.
the time July comes around, August, it's just miserable out. It's just sticky. It's hot, and yeah, I mean,
Oh,
the midday you really can't be out. So the mornings and the evenings are still pretty nice, but yeah, spring is
mm.
definitely where it's at. Spring and autumn are the perfection around here.
It's like the best time for you, isn't it? Yeah, 100%. Oh, goodness. What
Why
else
did I
was I
decide
going
to
to
eat
say?
an apple? Why am I eating an apple right now? This is like the hardest thing to eat on a podcast could be. Why am I doing this?
I don't know. But it's making you look casual and collected, though. Like, I'm casual, I'm eating an apple. The real question, though, Jacob, is why is it not a hot cross bun? Because that is the spring equinox tradition.
Is it?
Yeah, well, in England it is.
What's a
Actually,
hot cross bun?
so, wow, you don't have this in America.
I swear we talked about this last year at the same exact time. But go
Sorry,
ahead again.
sorry for giving you
I'm sure
deja
they all
vu.
forget too.
But it's like a sticky bun with a cross on it. It was like actually, you know what? The Anglo-Saxons brought this. It wasn't like a Celtic tradition, but they had like these wheat cakes which they marked with a cross, and it was a symbol of the sun wheel to represent the balance between on the equinoxes. But then interestingly, the same sun symbols connected to the Roman goddess of love, war, and fertility. What's her name? Ishtar or Inanna. She has the
Yeah.
same thing as she was resurrected 3 days after her descent into the underworld, which always makes me think about Christ. Because now, when people think of hot cross buns, they connect it with Christ. So you give them out on Easter Sunday to celebrate the
Mm.
resurrection of Christ. But really, this goes back. This goes back way further, beyond Anglo-Saxons and beyond, yeah, all the way to Ishtar, really.
I've
Babylonian.
I've been really reflecting on like I think I'm going to sit down and do some research. Just
Mm.
like the audacity of Easter. It's so funny. Um, it's like that's the one holiday I'll never forget when I was younger. Like when I was still like being forced to go to church and stuff like that on Sundays. We
Yeah.
went to like church on Sunday and we left and my mom was like, "Okay, you can have a cookie if you can tell me the meaning behind the season or about the reason behind Easter." And I was just like, "I don't know." And she's like, I think I said Easter bunny or something like that. She's like, "It's because Christ has risen." And I was like, "But then why is there an Easter bunny?" Like,
Yeah, exactly.
like
Like, how did
what
they
is
tie
this?
that in? They didn't even try to tie that into the story of Christ.
No,
It
it's
was
like
like,
it's like one, you do it on the first full moon after or the first Sunday after the full moon. It's just like, well, that's pagan as hell.
yeah, yeah, yeah. Interesting.
You paint eggs, which I'm pretty sure has been traced back to the pagan origins, and then
Well, hang on, hang on. No, Jesus loved eggs. That's what that's about.
oh
He's a big
yeah,
fan
yeah,
of
yeah. Oh yeah, yeah. Well, that's hard to
eggs.
love these days. I don't know about you, but these eggs expensive here.
He's like, "Remember me" by chocolate eggs and
By painting
rabbits.
these eggs and rabbits. Yeah, yeah.
This
Well, and I think
definitely
that's
isn't
kind of like
pagan.
there's an interesting thing with like the goddess revival and things like that, and which is I
Mm.
think very important because obviously one of the big problems of Christianity and Judaism and Islam is that it's very male focused, and so I think the Wiccan coming in and bringing forth the goddess and stuff has been a good counteraction to that, and so I think there's been a lot of trying to reclaim what has become masculine when it was originally feminine. And
Yeah.
obviously, I think the rebirth of the land is very much tied to femininity because of Mother Earth. And so I think we really try to find what these features would have been in goddesses. And I
Mm.
think obviously like the bunnies, the Easter bunny, the eggs and the painted eggs, I think these are probably all qualities tied to the feminine in the
Yeah.
past that were incorporated into the masculine.
Yeah, it's really interesting, isn't it? And it's so fascinating to me that they've left it so clearly as a lingering sort of syncretization with Christianity, with the eggs and the rabbits and Easter and all of that. But it's a lovely reminder. And I think to go back to those little rituals, if we were going to recommend to our listeners, like, how are you going to celebrate this? It's to take those rituals back, really, to go back to painting the eggs, put a rabbit on the altar. And to really connect to those kind of female goddesses of the land and to connect with the energy of fertility And that can apply both to men and women. Like, what's alive in us? What are we birthing? It's not just the creative sort of reproductive organs. It's the creative
Yeah.
flow of life in the land, in nature, in projects, everything.
Yeah, and I think this is obviously something that's always hard to talk about. Is and I'm a very private sexual person, but I think spring is also a good reminder to change up the flow a little bit. In that committed relationship, or
Yeah.
in that long term relationship, sex and and love, or these are all very important things.
Mm.
And we obviously live in a very blessed time where we don't have to worry about getting accidental babies as much. We have much more birth control, and so we live in an amazing time to enjoy your sexuality. And I think spring is a wonderful reminder of that time, because I do
Be
think that, what was it?
sorry, I said be frivolous.
Yeah, be frivolous, be like the rabbit. That's the rabbit as a symbol is literally that. Which is also the
Yeah,
funny thing, that it's tied to like Easter, and it's just like the symbol of the rabbit is just horny. Like rabbits are
yeah.
horny.
Yeah, exactly. Yeah, I mean, if you just look at any animals right now, they're really excited. My dog actually, I'll tell you something funny. My dog, I had to take him to the vets last week because he humped a nettle. And I was like, dude, oh no.
Oh,
Yeah, I mean, so you can celebrate
don't do
spring
that.
in all manners of ways, but not like
Don't
that.
hump nettles.
Don't do that.
If we had the time and energy, we should make merchandise, and that would be one of them. Is the spring one is don't hump nettles.
Yes, that would sell. That would sell, wouldn't it? Yeah. Yeah, so
so
that's
so
one way to
to,
combine the
to
love
save
of the land.
myself from talking more about this, one thing I was reflecting on, because I think it was the previous episode we were discussing
Mhm.
how there's been a little bit more focus on like the oneness of the one God and stuff like that. But I've
Yeah.
had an interesting shift. I actually, after my time in Sedona, I've been wanting to kind of go back to working more with polytheism, because
Mm,
I think one of the things I loved about, again, returning to my roots and understanding why I did this, obviously Norse paganism. But I think the beauty of polytheism is, even if they are all connected, even if everything is connected to the one great being, everything's connected to great spirit, and all this, I think polytheism gives us such a beautiful way to connect to the natural world, to ourselves, to the seasonal
yeah.
changes. And so I think as we have merged more into spring, like winter is very oneness, winter is all
Mm,
encompassing. And so I think that's
yeah.
why you have like the Kaliach as like as a being, is because winter is so overbearing. But as
Yeah.
spring is becoming to emerge, I've actually really wanted to work more with honoring multiple gods, of honoring the elements of nature, of Mother Earth, of Father Sky, but also of Thor, the returning storms,
Yeah.
of Ostara and Suna or Bridget. Like there's so many components to our world, to just label
Yeah.
it all as oneness, I think is a detriment to it.
Interesting. So you kind of think there's more value in kind of breaking it down to these separate gods rather than kind of morphing it.
Yeah, I think so, because I think that's one of the reasons I got interested in polytheism in the first place, is just calling everything God or the devil, I think is just, it's too oversimplified, because the world is not black and white. The world isn't one
Mm,
thing. The world is so many things. We are so many
yeah.
things. And I think just to label it all as this one thing, maybe at the end of the day, it's all spirit. Maybe. But to
Yes.
me,
Yeah.
culture, heritage, all of this, there's so much color, so much life, so many individual little splotches in the world, that I want to acknowledge all the different little colors. I don't want to just say, look at the one big painting. I want to see all the little elements, and honor all of them individually.
Yeah. That's really interesting, isn't it? Because I suppose would you say that's the opposite of animism? There's, or
Yeah.
maybe because I would say that's a different. Do you remember we were
Mm,
talking before about how you feel like the Norse was more like the kind of polytheism, and then the Druidry of Celtic, of seeing the aliveness and everything, was more like animism.
mm-hmm. I think,
And
let's
that's
see.
that's been really interesting. I've really been sort of deeping that over the last few months.
Yeah, so I don't know if I have like, this one book has like a really good depiction. So this is more like the animistic
Mm.
view, human, a part of everything. Like we're all connected to this web. And then there's like the Christian model, which is, we're above animals in nature, but God is
Yeah.
above us. And obviously, this is a model I think is very dangerous because obviously we're abusing the planet because we think God gave us everything. And that is just not true.
Yeah.
Like this planet
Yeah.
is not up for us to abuse. And so I think with animism, it's a better way to view it. But I do think, in my opinion, removing the God layer and just seeing everything as like this connected life force. I miss the gods. I miss the polytheistic element, even if it's not something that I believe literally. Like I don't
Mm.
believe Thor is in a chariot with a hammer swinging it around. Like I'm not like that. But there is something to thunder. There's something to lightning, and there's something to
Mm.
strength and protection and stuff like that. And I think honoring that as an individual element brings me much more understanding and learning than trying to just see it all as oneness.
That's a really interesting way of sort of illustrating that belief system. I really like the way you've done that because it's true. It's sort of it's more devotional, isn't it? And in a way, it kind of, like you said, it gives more attention to those individual aspects. So I can see
Mm-hmm.
that. I can see where you're coming from with that.
I've had a lot of
Yeah.
interesting reflections. It's very difficult because I don't want to, I'm in this new relationship. I don't want to talk about it too much. But one of the things is she's Catholic. And I never thought I would be the guy that would date someone who wasn't just like, hardcore pagan. But she's
Mm,
very open. She's very curious, very kind, and very understanding. And she, doesn't try to convert me. I don't try to convert her. And we very much just have conversations. But,
mm,
kind of reflecting on Catholicism and paganism and Christianity and the difference between Protestant Christianity versus Catholicism versus, what we worship and practice as more pagan believers. And one of the main elemental differences between Catholicism and Protestantism is the saints. And I think
mm.
Catholics, even though they still have this like dipping of Christ and God, but even if they have Christ and God, they still do like Mother Mary as well,
Yeah.
and the Virgin Mary. And I think at least you have some feminine force in there. And then
Yeah.
you have the wide variety of saints. And so you can sit here, I can sit here and be like, oh, yes, I'm very grateful for Thor, Thunder God. And then a Catholic can be like, yes, Saint Olaf, he fights giants. And it's like, okay, you can call him Saint Olaf, that's fine, whatever you want. But at the end of the day, like we're both worshiping like these masculine figures of fighting the evil.
Yeah. Yeah.
Or
Yeah.
or with Bridget, Bridget is both worshipped as a modern pagan goddess, as she is also a Catholic saint.
It's really interesting, isn't it? Yeah. So it's kind of, I wonder if people almost need those individual stories and those individual characters to make sense of the world in a more kind of categorized way.
Mm-hmm.
Humans like tidying. Humans like things to be squirreled away, don't they?
Mm-hmm.
Generally, they like things to make sense and to have labels and things. I
Mm.
wonder if it's like a neat way of reforming what would have been animism, of seeing the
Yeah.
aliveness and interconnectedness and everything.
Well, interesting enough, this is this book I was showing Kubi beforehand. It's like this really old text on but evil faith and fable by someone MacCulloch. I love that name. But one of the things that he was saying, and he's very much a Christian writer. Like the way he talks about paganism is very Christian.
Mm.
Um, in the opening segment, he was talking about how in historical paganism, they were much more likely to give up gods, especially big idea gods. But the thing that pagans struggled to give up with during conversion was localized deities and nature spirits. They were
Mm.
very adamant not to give those up because those are something they interacted with every day. And they're like, well, we don't want
Yeah,
to piss those off. When it came
yeah,
to big idea God's over there. They're like, yeah, so like you could change him up as much as you want. But this tree over here is very important.
yeah, yeah, yeah. This is the thing. I mean, anything that's connected with nature, it has like this purity about it. It has this thing that can't be altered. It can't be changed by dogma. It can't be, you know what I mean? A tree is a tree. And it can't be formed into different stories or
Mm,
characters. So there is something about worshipping the nature gods and how they've got this almost like timelessness to them that
mm,
perhaps has more similarities through all the pantheons than the, like you said, the ones that go out and do the war and the bits and pieces and the
mm.
saviors and the saints.
Yeah, so to me, that's very interchangeable. Like you want to call that Saint Olaf, you want to call that this, whatever. But what
Yeah.
about this tree? That tree's pretty cool, right?
Don't be touching that tree. That's different. Yeah. Yeah,
And
it's fascinating.
even me getting out, just coming back from Sedona, like obviously there's people in Sedona that are, very much like, nature, hippies, spiritual.
Mm.
But then there's so many everyday people that go there on tourism. And at the end
Yeah,
of the day, they might sit there and they might be like, I thank God for this view. Someone might be like, I thank Krishna for this view. Someone says, I thank Allah for this view. But like, doesn't matter. Like, we're all there because we fucking love nature.
yeah,
Yeah.
exactly. And that's the most important thing, really, isn't it? That there's gratitude in the hearts of the human spirit in that moment, whatever it wants
Mm.
to label itself as. It's that moment of gratitude for the world that we live in, and that really does make the spirit, come to life. It sparks something in us, and that's the uniting factor, isn't it?
Yeah. But so like let's kind of come into a head here, kind of returning to spring. What's your piece of advice for people wanting to live a more spiritual life this spring equinox?
Oh, I would say have a good spring clean, but do it in a way that is bringing more ritual back in. So rather than just doing your normal kind of human spring clean, you could take a burning bundle of herbs and go around each room as well. So it's actually kind of saning the house and sort of clearing the energy for the year ahead. And then in terms of like altar decoration, things like spring flowers, daffodils are so beautiful this year. Painting and decorating hard-boiled eggs, and really thinking about the metaphor behind that, about what you're birthing into the world. And I think we've said before, this is kind of the right time to do the the New Year's resolutions and the goals for the year. It's like, now's the time to actualize it. So good time for list making as well, I think.
Yeah. And I know this is always fun advice to give because you're like, I can't bend over and touch my toes. Um,
Yoga. I'm not doing yoga.
no. um, no, and it's not necessarily yoga, but something that I say this as someone who used to not take care of my body.
Mm.
I used to eat like crap. I love sweet and sour chicken. Oh my God, I would eat sweet and sour chicken like twice a week. Um, and I used to be like 230 pounds. I wasn't like obese, but I definitely wasn't a healthy weight.
Yeah.
And the spiritual awakening and this travel and all this stuff, it's really helped me lose weight, but also reconnect to my health. And one of the big lessons that I was kind of shown, especially in a place like Sedona, even with mushrooms and everything, or without them,
Mm.
is if we have our youth and we have our health, that's one of the greatest gifts. Um,
Oh, yeah. Yeah.
one of the things that I'm always taught is, especially as my grandparents are passing and things like that, is eventually we have to return this gift.
Mm,
But
mm, mm.
especially if you're young and have the ability to be healthy, like I understand not everyone has the same circumstances, but man, enjoy it. Like there's
Yeah.
time to be old. There's time to sit on the couch. There's time, winter is for that. Winter is time to sit on the couch and watch Netflix and play video games. But spring is the time to enjoy your body in every way possible. Get out,
Mm.
explore, exercise, run if you can, and that's the thing. Like there's people out there that can't. There's people out there that can't run. They can't fully embrace the bodies they're in.
Yeah.
And so many people I think in this world have healthy bodies that can embrace the this amazing life, but because of
Mm.
what's happening in here in the mind, we stop ourselves. And I used to be that person, but man, I
Mm.
love using my body. I love getting
Yeah.
out there and doing crazy stuff with it while I have the ability to.
Totally. I really, yeah, it's good too. And it's like embodying the hair, isn't it? That spring-like energetic kind of movement of the body. And if you don't like exercise, I mean, I'm not a fan of exercise, but I love dancing.
Yeah.
Dancing is my exercise. And that's a really good way to celebrate the body this time of year. Because like you said, the body is like the greatest instrument we'll ever own, really, isn't
Mhm.
it? It truly is. Yeah. Good
Yeah, it's
advice.
Yeah, like even after this podcast, like again with the sunshine, like if this was a month
Mm.
ago, I would definitely not be like, I'm going to take a walk after this podcast. Be like, no, it's time for my soup and my Netflix. Yes.
I
No,
like
but
that.
like I'm looking outside, I'm feeling the wind come in. I'm like, this is perfect weather. I'm gonna take a walk. I'm
Mm.
just gonna like take it in. I might take my flute and sit in a park and play my flute. Like to me, that
Yeah.
is spring. It's fully embracing the energies that are being here for us,
Yeah.
and going to bed tired every night because we successfully had a good day.
Yes, here's to that. Being sleepy little rabbit by the end of the day. Oh,
Yes.
yeah.
No, I think that's what I'm feeling. And I'm, and just to the audience in general, like, for the people that are, been wondering where my content's been and stuff like that, is I'm really excited. I'm finishing up the Sedona edits right now, and then I hopefully can get back to just taking you out on beautiful hikes and talking about paganism. I'm excited for it.
Eee! I think everyone's going to be excited to see that return as well.
Yeah, happy little hobbit self, my sophisticated glasses.
Yeah. Yes. Love it.
I
Oh,
think I'm
well, here's
embracing
to
the
that.
glasses. I'm embracing them.
It's a good look. I mean,
Yeah.
it's a sophisticated version of you. Yeah.
I'm old now. I'm
Leave them when
30.
you go on the hikes and just put leaves back in your hair. Poncho back on.
Oh,
Go back
100%.
into the Jacob
Poncho and the
Oathbreaker.
wood flute. Seriously, it tastes really good. Like, I love blowing on this thing because it's like, mm. That's the best soundbite. I love
Oh,
blowing on this thing because it tastes really good.
oh my God. As if it wasn't bad enough that we were researching Canunis's penis only half an hour ago, and
That
now
was
you're saying
you.
stuff like
That
this.
was you. All right. Well, I think that's a good way to end it. So thank you, everyone,
Yeah.
for joining us. And we look forward to seeing you for April, discussing whatever happens in April.
Whatever happens then.
Well,
Yeah.
or what happens between us.